let's talk about Halloween. It's one of the biggest holidays in the year. There's candy, there's costumes, there's haunted houses. What's not to love? In fact, some of the most viral videos that I've ever posted as a creator were Halloween costume videos. But I started asking myself, where does this holiday actually come from? What does it mean? What does it stand for? And I also started wondering, why did my parents not let me celebrate it growing up? They always told me it was of the occult, but I never actually looked into the background of it. So today we're going to be diving into the surprising history of Halloween, also known as All Hallows Eve, and what it might actually mean. Halloween has ancient roots. It stems from a festival called Samhain, which traces back 2,000 years into the Celtic festivals of Samhain. The Celts, who lived in the modern day of Ireland, Scotland, and France, they celebrated Samhain on October 31st to mark the end of their harvest and the start of winter. This was the time that was associated with death and darkness, and the Celts believed that on this night, the boundary between the living and the dead was blurred, so the spirits could roam freely among the living. So, to protect themselves from wandering spirits, people would wear costumes, often even dressing as animals or evil spirits to blend in and to avoid harm. Bonfires were lit and people left food outside their homes to appease the spirits and to prevent bad luck. At its core, Samhain was a festival tied to fear, death, and superstition, themes that have survived in the Halloween that we know today, even though they've been dressed up in more modern traditions. I did a bit of a deep dive and I looked up the influence of the church on All Hallows Eve and All Saints Day. So when Christianity spread through Europe, the church encountered these pagan festivals, and rather than banning them, the Catholic Church incorporated them. So in the 8th century, Pope Gregory III moved All Saints Day, also called All Hallows Day, to November 1st to honor the saints and the martyrs. The evening before, which is October 31st, became All Hallows Eve, which later evolved into Halloween. And even though the church tried to Christianize it, the holiday, many pagan customs remained, including the use of costumes and rituals to honor the dead and the symbols of fear. Over time, All Hallows Eve became less about the saints and more about the spirits and the superstition. The roots of darkness and fear continue to shape the themes of the holidays, and they still play a big role in today's celebrations. Halloween in America. Halloween took on a very new form when the Irish and the Scottish immigrants brought the traditions to America in the 19th century. So different communities began costume parties and even hosting neighborhood events. These traditions of trick-or-treating came from old customs where people would go door to door, offering prayers or songs in exchange for food. This is another nod to the holiday's connection with the spirits and the dead. Today, Halloween is a massive commercial event. It generates billions of dollars in costume sales, candy, and decorations. But even though it's marketed as innocent fun, the imagery of witches, ghosts, and monsters and haunted houses reflects the same ideas from its pagan and medieval roots: fear, darkness, and death. So let's talk about my journey with Halloween. Now I'll be honest with you guys. I told you my most viral videos were Halloween costumes. I love the creativity, I love dressing up, I love seeing how much you guys loved it, and I felt like it was harmless fun. But as I grew deeper in my faith, I started asking more questions. Even if it's just for fun, what does this reflect that I want to promote as a believer, as a creator? I realized that even though I wasn't intentionally celebrating anything dark, I was still participating in a holiday that has dark roots in fear, superstition, and in spiritual darkness. For me, it came down to integrity, and if I say that I want to reflect Christ in what I do, then why would I be promoting or celebrating something tied to fear and to the occult, even in subtle ways? So I made the decision to step away from Halloween content, and it wasn't easy because I know it will do well. I loved creating those viral videos and it was hard to let them go, but the peace that came from being intentional and aligning my content with my faith is definitely where I want to move. I told you guys, growing up we were never allowed to celebrate Halloween, but I didn't understand why exactly it was bad. So when I was researching all of this, I went to the Bible. That's the authority, right? And I was like, what does the Bible say about the occult and darkness? Well, it turns out it has a lot to say about the supernatural, fear, and also the importance of avoiding anything tied to darkness. So here are a few verses that actually guided me through the decision. One is Ephesians 5:11, and it says this: have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them. So you're telling me I can't dress up and just dress as something innocent, but that's actually having something to do with darkness? Alright, I kept digging. I went to Deuteronomy 18:10-12. It says, let no one be found among you who practices divination or sorcery or cast spells. Anyone who does this is detestable to the Lord. I was like, oh, okay. Detestable fearful is a strong word. 1 Peter 5:8, it says, "Be alert and sober-minded. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around you like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour." And that's heavy. So even though Halloween seems like it might be innocent today, the themes of fear, death, and darkness are still very, very present. And as Christians, if we are called to live in the light, if we're called to be set apart from anything that glorifies fear or the occult. So, should Christians celebrate Halloween? This is a very personal question, and I know that everyone has their own journey. I'm not here to judge anybody. You clicked on this video because you wanted to know my thoughts on it. It is a decision each of us will have to make. So for me, it became clear that participating in Halloween wasn't aligning with what I was saying I wanted to do, which is to be a follower of Christ. And even though it's fun, it brought success, it wasn't worth compromising my values. And the deeper that I actually started to look into the history, the more that I realized that Halloween, whether it's costumes, parties, haunted houses, trick-or-treating, internet trends, it is still tied to the ideas of fear, death, and superstition. And if you're wrestling with whether or not you should celebrate Halloween, just pray about it. It's that simple. At the end of the day, it's a personal decision, but I do think it is really important to at least ask yourself, does this holiday reflect who I want to be and what I believe? So if you're on the fence with Halloween, just pray about it, dive into the word, ask some friends, do your own research. Our eyes and ears are gates, and it is definitely important to be aware and intentional about what we are consuming. We're all on this journey called life together, and at the end of the day, we are all doing our best. If this video resonated with you, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. I will see you in the next video.